It pulls you in and doesn't let go.
Okay, hello. Welcome back, Brett Craig.
I'm back. That's a cool
You're
opening
back.
you did. I hadn't seen that new opening, or is it new? Or am I
Yeah,
just,
well, it's pretty new. It's like a few months old, but
is it?
yeah,
I like
thank you.
it.
Well, I
Yeah.
had to do it because my old one sampled Mad Men, and so
Okay.
YouTube wouldn't let me monetize. So that I had to do like an original one, I
It
had
was
to like
flagging
switch
it.
it. Yeah, it was like flagging it
Of
exactly.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's up with you, man? So last time we chatted, you were, sort of one of the original people that I was talking to as part of this, thing that we're both doing now, which is creating the
Yeah.
parallel economy. Um, and yeah, you really were very influential in my early thinking. You are a very much more bona fide ad guy than me. So it's like I just want everybody to know, like, I go around talking about like all my ad experience. You are the real deal. You were creative director at several very large places behind many great campaigns. What was the Dr. Pepper thing that you did that was so
Mint
funny?
Sweet was one of them. I was a
Yeah.
little tiny man who was like perfectly proportional and would come sliding into rooms. And for some reason, women thought he was very, very attractive, even though he was like this up to your knee. Uh,
I
kind of a
like that.
combination of Prince and Mick Jagger all rolled into run, and maybe David Bowie. And then we did Fansville still on, I think. I think it's still, well, college season just wrapped up, but that was a big campaign that we started 4 or 5 years ago, or 6, 7 years ago. It's still on the air. So it's a town obsessed with college football. Everything's college football. Everybody's born on either state or the opposing team, and babies come out of the womb with painted faces. And so, yeah, that's still on air to this day.
Wow, very
Yeah.
cool. But so yeah, so you were really at the top of the game, and then you're this is all very well known, but you kind of had a fall from I don't want to say fall from grace, but just like
Kind
many
of.
people, but not for anything bad. It was you weren't
Yeah.
like canceled in some sort of article or something. You were just like it was like this guy's not on board. So during George Floyd, you were Christian, you got kind of pushed aside. And then you worked for Daily Wire for a little bit, and you did all kinds of different stuff. And then, when I talked to you, you were going to start your own agency, but then you got very involved in this thing that's now big, and you see it
Yeah.
everywhere, which is XXXY.
Well, I'm wearing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about it. What has your path been like? Like, what was this? What is this? Who is Jennifer? Is it Say?
Yeah.
SEY?
Well, Jennifer
Yeah.
Say was brand president of Levi's. She happened to come on a little talk show I had, kind of like what you do right now, but it was maybe something a little more produced that I was doing
Yeah.
north of Nashville. Jennifer came on the show, and when we were sitting backstage, she looked at me and said, "We ought to do something." That was kind of how it started. And what we thought in the beginning was maybe we'll do an ad agency. She has all this brand experience. She ran Levi's and Dockers, and she's just got tremendous experience. I think she was at Taco Bell at one time, so was I. And so she's like, we ought to hook up and do an ad agency, which was kind of what we originally said. Then I didn't even know what she was up to, Jennifer. She was getting some kind of interest from some investor group to do clothing. And the clothing idea was to do something patriotic. But when we kind of talked about what that idea was, it my kind of fear was is that if you don't do that just right, it just becomes kind of, I mean, like, you know what I'm talking about, kind of the Rush Limbaugh coffee mug kind of red state thing. And I'm not bashing the red state. I mean, I'm super conservative, as you know. Um, but I don't know if it makes for a cool clothing brand. Not to say it can't be done, but I just didn't quite know what to do with it. And
Hmm.
when I and so it was going to be super patriotic, and instead I went away and just thought about Jennifer. Thought about who she was. She's a super outspoken person who's got documentaries on Netflix like Athlete A. She kind of blew up the whole kind of like scandals in the gymnastics, things that were happening to women with these coaches and all the stuff we've heard about. So she's got this sort of speaking truth to power history, all that marketing experience and clothing. And I was like, and she's a national champion gymnast. I'm like, that Venn diagram leads to this thing we called XXXY athletics, which was we're going to stand up for male and female, uh, the reality, the binary that's under assault. And we're going to do it in the place that it's kind of the rubber's meeting the road, which is sports. Um, because this whole ideology, like it's all fine and dandy until you put a man in a boxing ring with a woman, like we saw in the Olympics. And so that's when you start to realize it doesn't really work because it's not based in reality. It's not true. And so we wanted to be advocates and stand up for reality and for women and girls. And so that's how this company happened.
Yeah, it's funny because I mean, what's great is that you're drawing a line, and that's what we need. We need people to,
Yeah.
stand up for the boundaries, and because the
Yep.
boundaries are important, whether it's a border wall or a,
Yeah.
line between men and women's sports. Um, and it's really funny because when you see the people on the far left, who are really the only people who actually believe in this stuff, who aren't just sort of pushed into it, um, and when they get this argument about sports, it's like the one place where they have no leg to stand on at all. So they basically say, like, well, that's just an unfortunate side effect. That's just
Yeah.
like a bug. It's like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't affect anybody. It doesn't. It's such a small
Yeah.
deal. It's like, okay, if it's such a small deal, why is it happening at the Olympics? Why is it happening
Right.
like everywhere we see? Why is it happening in commercials? So you're saying it's a small deal, yet it's everywhere. So like, yeah,
It's everywhere, and I think they've moved. Before it was it's not happening. It's just a total
right,
denial. It's like
yeah,
everything. First it's
yeah.
not happening. Then
First,
when
it's
it
not
is
happening.
happening, it's two men are playing for the pool championship in the UK, and today or soon or I don't know when, two men will be for the women's pool, by the way. Two men in USA fencing are going to be playing for the championship in women's fencing. This is within like 3 days. Now it's two. Well, it's barely happening, but it's disc golf, it's chess, it's darts, and really, do men really have an advantage in these sports anyway? And so yeah, they just keep moving the ball. And then I have another theory about why sports are sort of this um, hard thing for the left, and it is that the far left doesn't play sports. I mean, you know what I mean? That's the thespian
Yeah,
crowd, and again, I have sympathy for that crowd. I like some of those people. You're artistic, I'm artistic. I like those people,
yeah,
but they're not athletes generally. And
right.
I kind of like Jennifer had one foot in the athletic world and hung out with the jocks in high school, even though my kind of friends I really liked were probably more the thespian crowd, like the artistic people who I could have, like you, I could have a conversation with. We'll talk about meaningful things
Yeah.
versus just like, yeah, good pass. I was a good athlete. That's why I could hang with those guys. But I didn't love the games the way that they did. But I think the left, that's where they were in I'm just generalizing, but sort of in the thespian, entertainment, funny, arts, and that's not generally a person that ever goes over to the football team very much. And so they don't
Right.
even
So it's like
understand
they didn't
sports.
think about it. Like they didn't think it all the way out. They were like, "Oh, that's more. We'll deal with that later." And then it was like it
Yes.
became like such a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that, until you're just adding to that, Isaac, I don't think they realize how important sports are to people,
Yeah.
the opportunities that come with them, why it makes if they probably if you didn't play basketball or football and didn't ever just kind of have fun scrimmaging with girls ever, you never really experienced the difference that the absurd super like Avengers versus that males have, and
Yeah.
especially in certain sports. It's just so outrageous that it's not even worth talking about
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
advantage.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean that's a very funny way to put it. That it's like the theater kids. They just didn't really think all the way to sports because like actually in theater, yeah, you're kind of like supposed to be playing the different things, but they were like, oh crap, we can't actually make it so that the men and women can play the same sports. It sure is weird. It sure is weird. I will say that I've noticed I do yoga. And I've noticed that there is like it actually has kind of receded because I think it caused problems. But for before this most recent Trump win, it was like when I started doing yoga in 2017, 16, there was no trans people.
Yeah.
There was zero trans people, either in the classes or
Yeah,
teaching them.
yeah.
In like 2024, it was like 60% of the people that worked at these studios were then suddenly trans. And it's like, why? Like, wait, like, why is it that trans people are so attracted to like sports? And is that even true? Or is that even, I mean, is it true that sports people are or trans people are particularly attracted to sports? Or is it just like trans people are now everywhere and like, do you view it as kind of a performative thing? I guess is what I'm asking.
I guess it just depends. I think in some cases it's there's motivations like for coaches. I think sometimes there's the sort of ringer, I could get a boy that is a girl on my team that is a total ringer, and it's kind of a loophole in the system. Um, and so that I think that's just my feeling at San Jose State. That was what was going on with Blair Fleming. You hear the
Yeah.
coach defending it, defending it, defending. Well, Blair's got like a 40-something inch vertical. I mean, it's just like this, and they're not that great of a team. They're like 100th in the country, but suddenly with Blair, they start out. I think they started out like 9-0. So I think there's that for the coaches. I think sometimes they see it as sort of like most coaches are looking for talent, and if you can get a boy on the team that says he's a girl and that's a new rule, well, then I think they sometimes just think very practically about it, which is still sucky, but that's what they think about. For some of the kids that are transitioning that want to play sports, I think it's just a perk of the whole thing. It's another privilege. Because let's face it, like everything the left says is projection. So, like when they say white males are privileged, the truth is you're not privileged at this point in history. You might have been, but we're talking about a while ago. Now you're not. We are now privileged. What there is the reality. If you say you're trans, and then you immediately go to the top of the grievance totem pole or the front of the line of the grievance line, it's the highest ground you can claim. And so one of the perks of it also is I can now enter into sports, and where I was sort of mediocre as a boy or as a male, I'm winning the high
really,
jump
yeah.
by 4 inches. I'm winning by
Yeah.
8 feet, and they'll let me do it. So I just think it's, yeah. I don't know if it's, I don't like, you'll hear this canard from them, like John Oliver the other day. He's like, no one transitions so that they can steal medals from women. I've never thought that. I don't think any boy goes, you know what, I'm going to cut off my thing so I can go or whatever. I know that's not necessarily what happens, but I'm not going to rearrange my body and do all this so that I can steal medals from girls in swimming. I don't believe that is generally the case at all. I think it's just part of the entire thing is that you transition, and then it's like a perk. It's like a perk of the many perks that come with it, like which is, one of them is sports.
Yeah, it's like,
Women's
do
sports.
you remember that great campaign that was I forget who it was for, but it was, I always remember it. It was, how do you go from first to 337th overnight? And it was turn pro. Remember that? It was like some
I
kind of
think so.
Wilson tennis ad.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like going trans is the reverse of that. It's like, how do you go to 337th to first overnight? Is turn
Turn
trans.
trans.
Become a
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's also very interesting that the trans thing seems to be, somebody else came on this podcast recently and they were like, if you look at the intersectionality kind of calculation, trans
Yeah.
people actually always win. Like there was a thing in the UK where a black nurse misgendered a trans man and then, or trans whatever, trans woman, and then the trans woman started screaming racial slurs at the black woman. and the black woman got investigated as like a problem, you know? So it's like
Yeah.
actually the trans trumps any of the other
Everything.
victimhood statuses. Yeah, which is funny.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's really interesting. It's like we've women are way down there now. Um,
Oh yeah, women are like
Black
they're near the
Americans are
top.
BLM. We've
Yeah.
moved on. We're not talking about, and all that's over. Um, gay doesn't. If you're gay and straight,
Yeah.
you're kind of the oppressor class as well. And now it's down to trans people, and they're these
Yeah.
special little
Yeah.
unicorns that we just have to delicately, just you
Yeah.
can't challenge them. And really what we see, and I was just like today looking at a bunch of footage, something I was kind of cutting was just for the just a thought I had was just how much anger and entitlement and is coming at women, coming at society from this small group that's being told that whatever it is that you feel about yourself or whatever you want, it is the most important thing in the world. And it's leading them to be extremely angry, leading them to be very, um, I would even say like temper and violence, seems, or at least rhetoric and sometimes real violence. But it's like you can't have a good exchange with that the true believers. Not to say that you won't meet a trans person that's not really nice. I mean, I do meet people that are trans that are really nice. I just mean that the kind of activists, you can't even have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
There's no
No,
dialogue.
no, because they're not. It's again, it's not they're not interested in arguing, right? I mean, they're not, and that's why what you're doing is actually really good because you're just saying like, no, here's a line in the sand. Here's a line in the sand, and it's just you can't break the line in the sand, and there's no point in talking about it. I mean, even this there's this whole sort of line of discourse on the right of, oh well, there's trans that are autogynephilic, and then
Right.
there's the different kind of trans. And I'm just like, no, like that debate, all you're doing in that debate is opening up this whole thing where then you're going to be justifying one side and not. And it's just like, no, that's what I like about your guys' material. You're just like, no women in girls sports. You don't get, or sorry, no men in women's sports. You're not trying to
Right.
get into this long conversation about it. You're just saying, calling, you're calling it as you see it. Just this is how it is. So I guess what I want to ask is how much thinking goes into this messaging? I mean, are you guys having strategy sessions? Is this similar? I mean, because as far as I know, were you ever in house before?
First
Yeah. So
time.
what's the difference in terms of being in house? How's it go differently?
Well, I think what I like about it, Isaac, is just the lack of layers. I mean, Jennifer's smart. She's a marketer, so she's always done this. And so she knows good thinking. And so you ask, like, what's it like, these strategy sessions? Well, a strategy session is I'm at the gym and an idea pops into my head and I text Jennifer and she goes, I love it. And we just make it.
Yeah.
Um, that is the way it has gone. And so that's the part that I love. I mean, I also, and I'm not just saying this in case Jen's watching or anything. She is an exceptionally good boss to work for. Like I've had a lot of bosses, I've had a lot of clients, and I can think of Jen as like a client in a way because I'm a creative, always pitching her
Right.
ideas, and she's the
Yeah.
boss. But she's really like a client to me in a sense. And she's one of the best because one, she loves creative. She is creative. She's made documentaries. She's written books, and so she likes creative. She likes copy. She likes art. Her kids are artists. Um, so that makes her really good. But she's also a quick decider. Very decisive, quick to make a decision if she likes it. And that, we just don't overthink anything.
Right.
So if anything, we probably don't. We just don't overthink a lot. We make a lot, and then we just like today we put something out. I think you saw it, and it was just like, should we go put it out today? Yes, let's put it out. And then we don't overthink like, well, Monday's a better day. And I mean, we might. I'm not saying there aren't those kinds of conversations, with PR and stuff, but it's very quick and it's very turnkey, and it's like whatever I can make. If Jen likes it and I like it, we pretty much do it. And that's the thing about being, I guess, I don't know if it's true in other internal teams, but I will say for me, I'm enjoying that. I don't miss the big agency where like it took 3 weeks for the planner to come up with a brief. Then he put the brief on your desk and asks what you think of it. Then it goes back and gets tweaked. Then you go into a 2 week creation period, right? And then you present it to all the account team and they peck it to death. Not, it wasn't that bad, but it was like, okay. And sometimes they made the work better. Usually they did. Then I got to get to the first meeting. Then you got to, you know how it goes. It's just,
Yeah.
it's one meeting. And then it's like, sometimes you go 5, 6 rounds with the client and all the wrestling internally. And I don't miss that. I love that I'm just making things all the time, which I'm really enjoying.
Well, how much of that also is just a function of the internet? Like
Yes.
that's what I've find more and more. It's a volume game now, and it's an idea game. It's about how good your idea is. It's really not about the execution. The execution is very much less important. Like we've had clients where we've spent so much time making a brand video, and it's great. It's always worth it, and it's always nice to have a really good product. And you're shooting on a red, and you got the lighting, and
Yes.
it's always great to do that. But then that thing that costs 50 grand gets completely blown out of the water by some AI piece of crap that so then
know.
somebody, but just simply because the idea of the AI thing is really good, right? And so it's like that's what I feel like is being selected for now. It's like it's so much less about the execution and just about like how good is the idea that you're getting out.
I think you're exactly right. For me, it's being internal in a small company. It moves quick, and then the internet moves quicker. I think you're so right. I just said that to like Breezy, my wife, the other day. I just said, yeah, like, and he even said this to Jen, just to people. It just hit me like what you just said. Like, we could spend 50, 60 grand on something, but we better know it's like really, really good. We did that recently with this campaign, Real Girls Rock, which I was really proud of. Directed it, shot with a guy, Matt, my friend, who's an excellent cinematographer. It really came out great. We got everybody there. Sia, Neely and Riley Gaines. We got a bunch of people there. Big effort. But I got to tell you, the whole time
watch it. We should watch it.
We should. Yeah. I was very nervous the whole time that we wouldn't get the bang for the buck. And by the way, this is not the 500,000 that we used to spend on every ad, or even 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. But even 50,000 for a small company, or 30,000. Yeah, you're like, is it worth it? What you just said, like. And then the other day, I just took some film of Stephanie Turner kneeling at USA Fencing and put a nice line on it, and that got 500,000 views.
And then boom, that's right. Yeah.
So then the only reason Real Girls Rock ended up being a success, and only because, well, not only because I think it was really good. I really it's one of my favorite ads I've ever done, but it was because J.K. Rowling retweeted it. So
see, that's what
if she hadn't done that, it would have probably been. It got 500,000 to 1 million, and we spent a lot more than we did on that thing that I made in a half a day.
Was that on Twitter? So J.K. Rowling retweeted it on Twitter.
Yeah, she retweeted it on Twitter, and it went
great.
pretty crazy. Yeah, it got a lot of
Very
views,
cool.
and it was a great moment for us. But
dude, you guys are at 2.3 million. A nice work.
Well, that was
dude.
bad.
This is
Hers was
awesome.
6 or 7 million.
Oh wow, her retweet. Did she say something about it, or?
Yeah, she said that she doesn't. Well, what she said was a really neat compliment. She just said, "I this will probably be the first and last ad I ever tweet, but I love it so much." And she tweeted it, and then she tweeted again later, like a couple days later, that her husband bought 4 shirts from us. So it was a real compliment. She's a creative, and so like for me and you, and like our greatest to me is other creatives liking our work is one of the coolest things, especially if we admire them. So I certainly admire her. So
okay, we got to watch this. I believe it or not, I completely missed this. So
okay,
I saw
Check
the
it
thing you guys published today because somebody sent it to me,
yeah.
but I somehow totally missed this. So let's play this so
Sure.
we can watch it together. So this is on Twitter, to 2 million views, really good.
Riley Gaines and Sia Leahy are in hot water. Riley Gaines and Sia Leahy are in hot water over their transphobic comments, and I just gotta say, who cares if biological males play?
It's you.
well, we do it. Production is a little thinner nowadays. Yeah.
Just so nobody's confused, he's the voice on the radio. That's what.
In sports, just be inclusive.
Could not agree more. This is just a bunch of fear-mongering from right-wing bigots.
Okay, we got Riley Gaines walking in the gym. People are getting texted transphobe as they're Okay, they're getting ready. There's Riley Gaines. They're getting ready to do some working out.
I'm just gonna say it. She's a bigot.
She's been a massive distraction from her team with her hate-filled rhetoric. Sia is not inclusive. And males invading women's sports isn't even a problem, as far as I'm concerned.
These female athletes just need to work harder.
And not blame others for their lack of success. As the captain, Sia is very much responsible for these boycotts, which have cost her team a playoff bid.
Guess we'll see how Sia handles all that pressure tonight.
Okay, Real Good Rocks, and then we got the Truth Fits, which is because it's a clothing company. So very nice, very inspiring. Definitely got the emotions, which is the most important part. So yeah, how did this come about, and what was sort of the core idea of this ad? I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but yeah, how did it come
I just
about?
wanted to show, and Jennifer and I wanted to show, we see what these women put up with and the girls what they deal with, which is the death threats, the loss of friends. If they take a stand on this issue, you know, they're just not allowed to, and they get so much heat. And Sia Leahy, that's her actual name. It's kind of hard to pronounce, but she's Hawaiian, played for University of Reno. She was part of the big boycott this year in D1. And so they all just take heat. They all get the worst things done to them. I mean, one of the coaches I know, Melissa Beatty Smoos, was shot at through her sitting in her breakfast nook in her house, and bullet came through the window.
Jeez, whoa,
Riley was
really?
held hostage. Yeah, so
Oh my god.
we don't hear about that. And so the idea was, look at the mental duress these women are under, and then they also go out and prepare themselves physically. I guess that's the idea. Athletes always have to do so much to be great, and then these women have to put up with another level of duress, and it's mental duress, which is to be texted and told you're a transphobe, to be texted and told you hate, and oh, and I've, you know, and so I wanted to tell that story. And yeah, everything I do now, Isaac, I just feel such passion about. I can't even tell you, like that ad, the thing I put out today, you know, whether I always make it as perfect as I wish I could, or is, you know, spend as much money on it as I wish we would, or whatever. I'm just so passionate about the things that we're talking about, because I just feel them in my bones as just, and I think they're so vital to society at this point. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I love telling these stories.
Yeah, and we've got hundreds of comments. I mean, it's like, you know, these ads, they just generate. So yeah, I'm just looking at the YouTube, which isn't even the main thing. But like, what was the response? What kind of response have you been getting? I mean, what are you seeing? Besides, it seems like overwhelming support in
Tremendous
the
support.
YouTube comments. Yeah.
Yeah, tremendous support. Like, just a tremendous support. Like, so many people are just so thankful that someone's saying these things, someone's telling these stories and bringing these stories to life with some emotion. I mean, because you and I have talked about this before, and Jennifer and I talk about it a lot, which is that left is as good at storytelling. They, you know, they're natural artists. Whatever part of their brain that makes them progressive idiots also seems to turn on the artistic side of them. And I even like a lot of the things that they make, you know, like you. I like a lot of movies. I still love movies. You know, rarely is there a great one anymore, but I still want to go see what a lot of times they make, because I like art. I like good storytelling. I like good filmmaking and good acting and all that. So somebody bringing that kind of artistry to the stories of the right, like you're doing, and like, you know, I'm trying to do, and other people are trying to do, is I think people are just so thankful that their stories are being told.
Yeah, you're right. It's really about storytelling, and it's about, I mean, not to use the language of the left, but it's about representation. Representation is important. And it is important. I mean, it's, you know, it's important to a degree. And I think that, right, it's like, you know, you look at videos on the left, and, or, you know, this BS propaganda, and it's all hate comments. Whereas you look at this, it's all comments of support. It's people saying, "Oh, I'm the dad of a 14-year-old. I'm the dad of a, I'm somebody who's actually living this. I have 2 daughters. Like I'm gonna have to face this stuff soon, and it would, it's gonna drive me insane to have to deal with this nonsense. Could you imagine, what kind of parent would send their daughter into into a sport with guys? It's absolutely crazy. It's completely insane. So tell me about the brand itself a little bit. What's going on with the actual brand? What is the brand of XXX?
The brand ultimately is, just an athletics, premium athletic wear. I mean, we got a lot of t-shirts and stuff, but we certainly have a lot of premium clothes that are coming online more and more and more. When you try to start a company, I'm learning because I've never done this, athletic company, it takes time to get it up and running, to get your designs in the queue and at the factory and get them out at scale and get the problems out of the system and get your game and up to snuff. And so it's been a year now, and I think I don't know what we've sold. We've sold well over 1 million, maybe even close to approaching 2, or I don't know what the exact, but it's good. So it's a good first year. But yeah, we want to be creating top-notch athletic wear for men and for women. Right now, our preponderance of stuff is for women, but we got quite a bit for men now. And be more than a t-shirt company, although we're happy to have people put a billboard on their chest. We think we need to right now. And so we want them to do that. Mm-hmm. But we're just more and more stuff's coming online all the time. And the goal is to be every bit as good as a Nike or any of those other players. It's going to take some time. But the quality, when people get stuff, the comment we get constantly is, wow, the quality. Well, Jennifer, with all that background with Levi's, I should have known this, but you can feel it. I mean, even this t-shirt, I've worn it so many times. It doesn't fade. It never, it's a little bit expensive. I'm like, well, it's no more expensive than the other ones, than the other brands. I mean, Lulu and the premium brands, that's the set we want to be in. And I grant you, they have the cachet and they've got the equity and the years of building, but the quality is there, if not more, and you feel it and you notice it. And my wife constantly is telling me when she buys stuff that she's like, wow, this stuff is getting really, really good and really nice. So anyway, that's the goal, to be a force in the marketplace for American values, to do that. So do you love your clothes and you love that we are a company that adheres to American principles in a world in which the Fortune 500 lost its way and seemed to almost start to not like this country and not like its founders, not like its whatever, like the constitutional republic that we have and the Bill of Rights and all the things that we all believe. It's like we are a company that loves all that.
What do you make of the tariffs? Are you guys getting screwed by the tariffs?
I have not talked to Jennifer about it because she sees all that more internal. I'm thankfully blissfully ignorant, about some of the business stuff. Sometimes I'm just busy creating and thinking all the time of what we can do next. I don't know how it's affecting. I haven't heard her specifically complain. I think in fact, I think I saw her say something that was kind of positive about the tariffs, if I remember right. So I don't know what it's doing to our bottom line exactly. I don't know. But what do I think about them? Yeah, I mean, that's the whole subject. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah. What do you think about it? You can say what's your thoughts?
I just personally don't believe Trump wants a world in which we're permanently tariffing everybody and they're tariffing us. I think he wants to reset the table.
Right.
And I think that if you have no leverage, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So I don't, so to me, it's just simple. It's like, I need leverage to get Vietnam or whoever to be fair, China. And so let's start a conversation about that. And the way we're going to start that conversation is we're going to bring pain to your economic system if you won't come sit down. And that's all I see it as. And I don't think Trump is interested in keeping them for 20 years, like a lot of people think. That's just my feeling. It's like, how do I get China to the table? How do I get the EU to the table? And so I'll put up the pressure, and then they'll come sit down. I won't get everything I want, and neither will they, but it'll be better than what we had. And then I'll announce the stock market and to everybody that, like, you know what I mean? That's how I see it. And that's kind of how it's playing out. Now, I know China's playing chicken with us now, and I don't know where that's going to go. I guess we're going to find out who really is the superpower in the world here pretty quick. Somebody's
yeah.
right, somebody's wrong. But I'm thankful that Trump seems to care about this country, and thankful that he cares about the working class. And so I'm up for the experiment. I guess is what I should have
Well,
said.
and that somebody is advocating for the interests of the American consumer, of the American worker, in being America first. I mean, I remember that one thing that really dawned on me in the beginning of my sort of path was I was like, okay, I got a little bit of money from, working at agencies. I want to invest it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to invest in an American made ETF, right? Like, there's got to be something out there that's just like American,
America.
yeah, companies that S&P 500 except America. The Vanguard blank fund except it's America, or whatever these investment instruments, and it didn't exist. And I was like, how could it be that there is not one way to invest into American-made companies only? And I was like, oh man, this is like really severe. Like they really are, working against us like very actively. I know I'm frozen. It'll stop in a second. But
Yeah.
and it was just shocking to me that it's like, how could there be nobody who's like really focused on this? And I think that this whole movement is kind of about reimagining the economy. Okay, so what are you seeing in terms of like advertising in general? What were your thoughts on the Super Bowl ads?
I just thought that was one of the worst batches I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, the longer I've done this business, the more I realize Super Bowl, and maybe you and I have talked about this before, is not the high bar of great creativity in the ad world as much as the average consumer might think it is, and even I might think it is if I'm not thinking very deeply. It's really the day of fart baby jokes and, you know what I mean, talking horses and, Budweiser Clydesdales ads that you've seen 60,000 times. There's nothing creative really going on there. It's going to be a sappy little dog touches the nose of a horse and they're going to win the Super Bowl. So it's not a great day actually for work. But what I would say is that when I was a kid, there was still standout ads, still ads that Americans loved on the Super Bowl. And maybe one of those was a Clydesdale ad. Um, a funny talking baby for E-Trade. Things that I'm having nachos, and they're drinking a beer or whatever, and it really leaped out of the TV at them, and it won the Super Bowl, or it got in the top 10, and I got lucky enough to make some of those ads. And so there were ads that you could, that were still good. They may not have been the best stuff, not the stuff that we all admire, because not average consumer maybe doesn't see some of that stuff sometimes, because maybe it aired over in the UK, or maybe it aired in Brazil, or maybe it aired in a small market in America. So yeah, but it was just so bad now. There was nothing even like that. It wasn't, not much less the high bar. There was no low. It's just not good. It just felt like all the funny people left the business, all the people that would challenge and push the edge a little bit of what the Super Bowl would even tolerate. I don't know how to explain it. Like people that don't understand the demographic that's watching. That's the other thing. It's like everything's been emasculated in America. I mean, maybe it's not. I would argue that the pendulum's going back now, which is fantastic. But it was so emasculated that I think it's left the industry full of people who don't know how to talk to what is probably a largely red state audience on that Sunday, you know? And so they don't know funny anymore. Budweiser doesn't know how to be funny. I mean, the last time we checked in with them, they were doing Dylan Mulvaney. And so they've lost their chops. It used to just be in those big agencies, there's a bunch of funny people running around, jokesters, people that made you laugh, and it was like you sit in a room and everybody's just coming up with ideas and who can make everybody laugh harder. That's the one that's going in the Super Bowl. And it probably, if it's funny, is based in a human truth. You know what I mean? As we know, if you want to do a good ad, it's gotta be based in a human truth of some kind, or it won't resonate. It won't catch in the American psyche. So now we're full of ideologues, I think, as much as you might say that DEI is being purged and people like Robbie Starbuck are having success, I would argue that a lot of people have been kicked out of that industry, either sort of spectacularly, like I was, or not so spectacularly, but just shown the door. Pale, what do they say? Pale, stale, and male, is what somebody said that he was
I
told.
haven't heard that for Pale, Stale, and Male. There you go.
Yeah, and they just kind of kicked that group out. Well, that group was really good at making funny ads.
Yeah.
That group was really good at making ads, period. And they also, a lot of those guys, and women, but I would say some of them, but a lot of the women probably stayed, but not all of them. A lot of those people, just had tremendous experience too, like experience on what is a good ad, what hits on Super Bowl, what hits, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't come overnight. Like it's like, and so we're left with like these children, I feel like, in the ad industry, emasculated children, or the males that are left, that were very, very talented, are silent. You never see articles on them anymore. Like it used to be just that this person, women and men, I'm not going to just say men, but like they weren't afraid to celebrate a white male that was very talented, like Dave Droga. You don't see that much anymore. Maybe it's coming back a little bit now, but it was just almost like some of the more famous people that have stayed in the industry. It's like they went into a bunker and you don't even hear about them anymore. So it just feels like a bunch of children. They don't know funny. They don't know Red State America. And when the Super Bowl comes around, they don't know how to talk to this country and they don't know what's funny. And so they can't resonate. And so I think we just saw a bunch of blah. It was like, I don't mean to just say it because I'm out and everybody's, oh, you're cynical. And it's not.
No,
it's just, there was nothing good.
Nobody would. Everybody said what you're saying now. So, and none of them were in the ad world. So you certainly have a right to say it. Also, yeah, it's funny. It does seem like Droga was the last. He was like the last
icon.
really good one. Yeah, and then he that early stuff they were doing was so good. Those early Droga ads,
amazing,
great.
Jeez.
Yeah, and then they also just everybody kind of bit the dust, and then now you're left with. It also seems like this feminized environment. It's like they really want to hinge on tried and true things, almost to the degree of being cynical. Like they're like, if we have these three celebrities in the ad,
yes.
right? Then it has
it's
to
an
work.
ad.
Yeah. Then it's a Super Bowl ad, and then it's like it doesn't matter what the idea is. We have these three celebrities, and if they're saying something quippy, like okay, it's got to work. Of course, it's going to work, and it's like no, it doesn't work. Like people, just because you have the celebrities and they're doing something funny, or doing something pretend funny, doesn't. You still need to have a good idea, and they don't really know what a good idea is. They
think
just have no
what
idea.
you just said, I don't, because it's like the bull elephants. Like I heard Larry Elder talk about this one time. When the bull elephants are kicked out of, when they're hunted, what you have is a bunch of uppity males that charge the tour guys that come through, right? And that's because there's no bull elephants to say, hey, calm down. Like you don't need to be charging the truck over there. And that's I feel like what happened to the industry is like you just decapitated the leadership of the industry. Yeah. And there was nobody to tell this person that walked in the office, that's not that good of an ad. Right. Like you have not done what Wyden and Kenny used to do over and over, which is like a Halftime in America, where Clint Eastwood walks out and talks to the country about how we just came out of one administration, we're moving into another. I don't even like the administration they were moving into, but it's halftime. We're about to do something new in this country. And it just hit America at that moment of like, brilliant idea. Clint Eastwood is the spokesman. Everybody loves Clint. Like, there's no idea. You guys aren't coming with any idea. You're not able to check in on the pulse of America. You don't understand America. And no one knows what a good idea is anymore because you don't have any of those old bull elephants walking around the agency anymore saying, kind of going, I used to have them. I'd walk into their office and they'd be like, what else you got?
Get out of here. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and it was such a pleasure when you got to one they liked because you knew you had something because these guys were tough to please,
Totally. Well, and it also just gave you, because you know how it is when you're making something, you get all excited about something and you're like, oh, that's it. That's for sure it. And then you bring it in and somebody says, this is not good. And then you suddenly, or like, I don't get it. And then suddenly you see it with different eyes and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, this isn't really very good. And like, that just doesn't happen in these places. You can tell. It's like one person has this idea and she's the right person. So everybody then goes, oh, yeah, let's do that, and let's get Post Malone in there, and let's get
Right.
let's put these people, and then we'll have some funny reference about their personal lives, and it's like,
Right.
okay, well, you can't just endlessly break the fourth wall. It's kind of postmodern. It's like you can't just endlessly be postmodern.
Right.
There's got to be some idea. So, what was it like for you making Super Bowl ads? I mean, were you? What was that process like?
Gary.
Yeah, is there like a lot of added pressure, and
Yeah, I got to do. I was probably in 3 or 4 times, I think. And some of them I really liked. I actually really liked the ads I got to do for the Super Bowl. But yeah, it's always a tremendous amount of pressure because the client's going to spend, 7, 8 million minimum on the media. And when people say
just
7
on the
million,
buy, right?
just on the buy,
buy.
that doesn't
Yeah,
include the fact that you got LeBron and
yeah.
all the other stuff. And then we had to shoot in Prague, and because that was saving, us money. But altogether, this thing is now $12 million. And so, yeah, it's tremendous fear, overthink, uh, too many people in the edit bay, too many comments, um, because you're going to pay for 100 million people to see your ad, and so no amount of 30-second film gets more scrutinized than a Super Bowl ad. It's just a lot of people and a lot of getting through people. So yeah, I always just felt like, this could be career ending, when I'm making it, because if it doesn't go well, it's like, well, I don't know. You just tanked our account, our biggest account, that one. And it's always the big accounts, by the way, because nobody else goes in. You got to have a lot of money. So it's like, it was Taco Bell that's doing Super Bowl. I mean, it's $7 billion, Yum Foods. If you lose it, it's a big deal,
Yeah.
So
Man, that's so cool though. That's really, really cool to go through that. And so who's in control? Because you have the director, right? And the
yeah,
director is usually some Hollywood guy doing this on the side. So they have a big ego. You have the brand director people inside the brand, and they have a huge ego. You have who's the creative director of the agency, who, I'm not saying you have a big ego, but all of us have egos of a
yeah.
kind. And so who's in charge? How does this balance? Like, how does it all kind of iron out?
That's what's so weird. It is I realize now I was in a weird business. It's like the client is writing the check, right? But they can't make creative. That's why they've got you. And on some level, the best clients sort of are a little bit skeptical of you as a creative because they always think you're trying to win an award, but they're also a little bit in awe of you because they can't do what you do. And then you hire a director who's used to being
The guy.
the
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
right? And we work some of the biggest ones. So when they show up on a set, it's what they want. The edit is what they want. They pick their editor. The director, only person they're wrestling with is the studio when the movie's going to go out. And that often happens. It gets really bad. In the case of our business, it is the ad agency that really drives the show on the set. So when I got out of there, I just discovered that the rest of the world doesn't see it that way in every other little thing that you do. Like, I'm used to the creatives that they are in the ad agency, in the big ad agencies, they are kind of, in the best ones, they're kind of driving it. And it's the account team is sort of there to serve the creatives a little bit because it's like, we don't have anything without these guys. And the clients, like I said, kind of lost without the creative. If they respect you, they kind of are, they're going to let you know if they hate a shot or something. But you're the one driving, and you're the one going up to the famous director and saying, we don't really like the shot, which is so it's, I guess all that to say, when you're on these big sets for Super Bowl, I used to dread it. I started to dread it towards the end of my career because I realized I had to be at my most diplomatic best. Because if I wasn't sitting next to a client pointing at something on the monitor that they didn't like, that knew was not a problem, and I don't want to bother Michael Bay about it, because he's going to get upset because he's trying to get his we have just started rolling and you're already commenting 6 times. He's going to lose his mind. It's like, and I had to come with,
insane.
yeah, and you had to deal
Yeah.
with young creatives saying things in front of the client that make them question a scene. And you're like, have to take them aside, go, don't raise questions in front of the client. Like, there's just so much going on a set, and trying to keep the director happy, because you're right, they do answer to you, but their ego's huge. And so
Yeah.
they don't really want that to be like it's just they don't want to feel like you're their boss even though you are, and they are going to
Yeah.
exit the edit bay, you're going to make the call with the client, so you're really the one driving it. But to get it done, you need everybody in a good mood, you need
Yeah.
everybody cooperative, and you're the person who's going to make sure that happens because you're communicating between the
Yeah.
director and the client. It's a nightmare. And I remember I mean, I can't tell you how many, I mean, I had run-ins with Errol Morris, the famous, I've had run-ins with
Wow.
them, all big time directors where like it gets
Can,
ugly.
can you tell this? Can you tell any of these stories?
Yeah.
Can you tell? Yeah, tell, please. I want to.
Well, the Errol Morris one's funny because the other night he had a Charles Manson new documentary out on.
Yeah, I saw it. Chaos.
Yeah, and I started to watch it, and my girls got kind of bored and thought it was too dark, so I just
Well,
turned it
the
off. But
weird thing about Chaos is that he.
yeah,
Well, anyway, we'll talk. Tell the Arrow Morris
I'd
story.
love to
We
hear
don't
what
need
you
to
think
get
of
into
it.
Chaos.
But yeah, he's super artistic and really gifted, in not which Anyway, Errol's Errol has done a lot of great documentaries. We all know, and he did an amazing job for us on this Taco Bell. I'm Ronald McDonald, and I love Taco Bell breakfast. Went crazy viral. It was his, but on a follow-up ad. Directors, they're just like, he doesn't want to do the same thing we already did. Totally understandable. We hire them to push us a little bit, just like our clients hire us to push them. But he was doing some weird thing with the camera. It was like this mounted mechanical camera in the middle of a table, and it was swinging around on people's faces. And it was like, it was just out of control, and nothing was working. And I couldn't blame the client for feeling like it was a complete brain wreck. And I had to go up and just tell him it's not working for us, which I just wasn't looking forward to. And his producer was a bear who just like line producer or whatever, who's basically his guardian, kind of like a star with a, whatever they call their agent, who's the bad cop. She was the bad cop. And he got so upset at me challenging him on the way this thing looked. And then I had to go, he kept doing it. And I just had to go back and go, it's not working, until finally that it got so, because the agent person was trying to run me off. I finally had to say, and I mean, I had to say, like, look, I said, I'm going to shut this shoot down unless you. That I've never
Whoa.
done that before, unless
Because
you
it's just
guys
he's
figure.
refusing. Because he's
He's not going
refusing
to do
to.
it.
He's not going to do it. Okay.
Well,
Wow.
he's a brilliant director who just felt like probably looking at me and the ad agency and going like, "Who are you?" And he did deliver a knockout on the first one, which was our idea, but he did a
Yeah.
wonderful job on it. So these are the kinds of tensions. And then at the end, me and Errol made friends, and he wouldn't be the last time I've had run-ins with directors. You actually have them quite a bit. It's like, because it's creative people with huge egos, like you said, who are passionate about what they're making, and there's a lot of money on the line. So there's money being burnt, directors' reputations on the line, and your reputation and your desire to get what you want. It's a pressure cooker.
Totally.
That's what
And
I
it's
would
like,
say.
and if anybody loses their temper, it's like the whole thing's going to get totally screwed.
And then you
And
have 2 more
yeah,
days of
yeah.
shooting, and it's all negative.
And then
like,
it's
you
like
don't want it
everybody
like
just
that.
hates each other, right? Yeah, no, and that's kind of the sort of lie about Don Draper, and this I think steered me wrong for a long time, which was, that's not a real character as a creative director because he's just the rainmaker in the room, but then that same guy has to then go balance all these egos later on, and you never see, they never show that part of Don Draper, who's like trying to be the peacemaker, because that's what you have to be. Like
You
the
have to
creative
be.
director at the agency, you have to deal with all of these people's insane egos. And that's really the part that he doesn't get. That's kind of like supposedly the account guy, but that's actually not the account guy. Like the creative director actually has to do all that,
You
like,
have to. The creative
himself.
person is.
Yeah.
You have to be a lot like the good ones are like account people. The
Yeah,
good ones are
yeah.
strategic. So like
Totally.
you're running your own agency now, and if you have a gift with
Oh,
talking, it's going to serve you well as a creative, because you could even deliver the greatest piece of creative to the client
Yeah.
that you've ever made, and you're still going to have to help them see that it's good, because they
Absolutely.
don't always see it. It's
No,
like, and then you're
rarely
like, wait,
do they see
they
it.
don't.
Yeah. I get messages all the time from old clients being like, dude, I didn't even understand what this idea was until a year later. And they'll be like, I was at a conference and I was explaining to somebody like our line, and then they were like, oh, I get what you were saying. And like, it's a compliment, but it's also kind of like, oh, you just were nodding your head this whole time and you didn't like get what I was saying. Yeah, no, it's really true. So any other good stories from the shoots? Not to
One
Pretty
more that I
classic.
just popped into my mind. Well, I had one. Oh, I had one time where uh, Kobe. I was shooting with Kobe Bryant, and we had just crazy stuff happens. Like I showed up at the Staples Center working with Kobe. Kobe had an ad agency himself eventually. He's a very smart guy. A marketer, liked marketing. So whenever they like it, it's like watch out. But he bought this kind of funny campaign from me, and I show up in the set, and somebody goes, "Hey, Kobe wants to talk to you. He doesn't like the ad." Like, well, we're shooting and everybody's here. And this is $500,000. You know what I mean? And like, I've got a client, I've sold it. It's not like, and I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, he wants to come up with something new. He's in the trailer getting his hair done or whatever. He's getting, taken care of before he goes on camera. And so in a weird way, it was like, it's fun. They open the trailer. I walk in, I'm sitting down as Kobe's getting styled. And I said, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, and it was this character that was harassing Kobe. I'll have to send it to you. His name was Billy Joe Cuthbert. And he was like this white dude who just scabbed into the NBA barely. And he's kind of a Rambus, like from the 80s. It
No,
was
we
a funny
remember
campaign.
these white players who are. I know
Yes,
exactly.
that are
what
just barely
this is,
making it.
This is human truth. That's a human truth. Is that
Yes.
white player? We all know that guy. So yes, no,
Right. And he
I
just
think I have
kind of
seen
barely.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
pretty fun. I really enjoyed making it. And anyway, Kobe was down for it. He liked it. He was great in it. But on this, he didn't want to do another one. He's like, after a while, like the dude's hassling me and like, yelling at me from the stands. Like, we got it. Like, what else you got? I'm like, we're here and he's here. And so we just came up with an ad together. It just jammed together. And I'm like, that's kind of the stuff that happens. Like, you have to be, and I'm sure you again are realizing this, like, you got to get really used to being uncomfortable a lot as a creative in advertising. You know, I've been on a set where I'm shooting David Bowie, and all of a sudden the client looks at me back when he was alive. Sadly, both those guys passed. But um, can you give David a line? Because he wasn't going to say a line in the spot. I'm like, what? I mean, we're paying him 1.2 million for a day of work. He's only here for like an hour, hour and a half, and I have to come up with a line right now for David Bowie. And right there on the set, I came up with a line, and it ended up in the cut, and it was really good. It's where people were falling out of the sky for XM satellite radio on the launch, and he falls into a hotel room, and he looks up through the hole and goes, "I'll never get used to that." And I had to come up with that in
That's
two
great. That's
seconds.
good.
But my point is, you have to come to like Kobe may want to rewrite the ad, Errol Morris may not cooperate. David Bowie, client may ask you for a line because they paid 1.2 million and they're wondering why he's not saying a line. So you have to be creative and sort of ready to ad lib and
Yeah.
improv all the time,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it often makes the work better.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, it's like because having the pressure, I think, always
Pressure.
leads to good stuff.
Yeah, pressure
Definitely.
makes diamonds. That's what we used to say. Yeah.
Wow, those are great stories. Those are
Yes.
very cool, man. Those are very cool. Okay, so what was it like working with Riley Gaines? She seems to be a cool new name who you see around, and she's become sort of a star. And who's the other one that was in that ad you just did?
Tia Lihi. So
Yeah,
she's
so
the
who
team
is
captain
she?
of. Yeah, so Hawaiian team, Hawaiian woman that played for University of Nevada. There was a 16 boycott this year. University of Nevada was one of them. They were
Oh,
especially noteworthy because their administration didn't support them. So they said we're going to forfeit. The administration said, no, you're not. You're going to go to the game. And the girls said, yes, we are. We're not going to play against San Jose State, and who had a male named Blair Fleming on the team. And so Sia, we just loved the way she looked. She was the leader. She's the one who spoke for the team. And so we said, we want to get you in this spot. Sia's fantastic. Uh, Riley's fantastic. It is an interesting thing that I notice, and this is something you and I've talked about a little bit in the past, is that there's a disproportionate amount that are Christians, and that just Sia is. I didn't know that actually, but when she came, we actually shot at my house, believe it or not, with because again, like you and I always talk about, we're doing things quick and on a shoestring sometimes. But yeah, I started talking to her, and like it turns out she's a Christian, Riley Gaines. same thing. And it's a lot about it is really it comes back to that for them, is it comes back to their worldview. And so they are willing to take these big stances that are, a lot of people look at it and go, why are you doing that? Like, you're going to lose everything, or you could lose everything. And so yeah, they a lot of them are Christians, a lot of them, and they're all been fabulous to work with. Riley's awesome. She's hard to get a hold of because she's so in demand at this point.
Yeah.
Or she's just running around for the Republican Party every day, and a million
Right.
women want her to come speak at this event or that event. So sometimes it's hard to get Riley, but she always wants to do it. She's always enthusiastic, and she's been great and great to work with.
Does the Bible actually say anything about trans? Probably. I'm guessing it didn't exist in those days.
Yeah,
I guess it
it's
did.
like,
I don't know.
well, it's like, it doesn't say anything about fentanyl, it's like, but yeah, my only point about that being is that, like, I had somebody say that to me the other day, like, the Bible says nothing about trans. They were challenging me, and I'm like,
Right.
well, in Genesis, it says he made them male and female. Male and female, he made them. Very, very, the binary is stated very clearly. And then if you're a Christian, then Jesus cites Genesis. He literally he's asked a question. It's kind of a sleuthy question. What do we do? I have to get into it, but like, if a woman marries, dies, who would be her husband in heaven? And he kind of says, he tells the story, and then says at the end, is like, don't you know that he made them male and female? And cites Genesis like word for word. In other words, he's going back to the authority of Genesis. He's not. So it's not like he talks a lot about trans or anything, but he cites the binary and does that in a gap of 2,000 years very affirmatively, that's the way it's made.
Right. Well, and because you're right, it's like these are people who are saying that there is their point that there is no male and female. I mean, you're dealing with these people. What is their position on this? Are they saying that there is no male and female? It's just whatever it's gender fluid. Like, how does that work? Do you know, like, what they believe?
Yeah, I think it's like, my biology doesn't have anything to do with what my gender is. And gender and sex are all confused now, the words and what they mean. And they feel that if they say they're a woman and that's what's trapped inside of their male body, it doesn't matter what their physiology says, their spirit is female. And if that's how I want to be regarded and that's what makes me happy, then you will dignify that and you will accommodate that. And if you don't, you're dead naming me, misgendering me. I mean, that's kind of the premise. I think that's why, too, like, they don't want a trans category, because what's wrapped up inside the question of is the assertion that I am a woman if I say I am one. Trans women are women. That's the thing they keep saying. And so they want the bathroom of women. They want it because it's all part of the entire, make believe, which is everybody must go along with my idea, about
Right.
myself.
Yeah, it's like, for some reason it's very interesting that they don't want a trans category, right? They don't want their own thing. They want inclusion in not just inclusion. They want acceptance of their ideology or of their ideas
Yep.
to the point where you're willing to completely reshape your entire
Everything.
society, overnight. But my question is, wouldn't there not be a biblical conflict, though, because they're saying, no, I am a woman, right? I mean, they're saying, no, I literally am one.
Yeah, I guess there is, in the sense, though, that what I think what I read in those texts to mean, and what Jesus is saying or Genesis is saying, is that there is no, if you're biologically a male, it doesn't, you know what I mean? You are one. You might be effeminate. You might be on the spectrum, which we all agree that there is a spectrum of the way that people feel and act. I know guys and thespian that are everything from, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, totally.
we just know that there's a spectrum. There are girls that are tomboys,
Yeah,
but they're still
right.
girls, right?
Yeah.
Guys that are very effeminate, but they're still men. They're still boys, So, to me, the Bible is putting forward that it's not suggesting that it's what's inside of you determines whether you're male or female. It is that your gametes and your chromosomes and your physical parts are the indicators of whether you're male and female, which is what everybody thought till like 5 seconds ago until,
Did you see the hilarious thing of the meme where, they brought back the dire wolves and there was the Time magazine that said not extinct. It was like extinct, but then it was crossed out. And somebody
Yes.
switched that and they put a tomboy and they said
I did see
extinct. Like,
Brilliant.
They're back.
Brilliant.
Because right, trans is tomboy genocide. It's like it's right. You can't just
Right.
be a masculine woman. And to me it comes down to acceptance, right? It's like in the one sense you're saying I'm going to rely on a medical regime that I pay lots of money to, and always pay. I will never not be able to pay them because I'm constantly needing what they give me.
Yeah.
That is who is going to determine who I am versus me determining who I am, and and accepting who I am. Right? You're seeking a superficial solution for a internal pain, and I think it's like what religion teaches you and what society should teach you is no, you accept yourself. Accept yourself as you are, not seek this medical intervention. I mean, it's like so.
And it's actually kind of, I think it's sad, on some level, because the folks that are just going down a rabbit hole and they're lost, and I think they aren't getting happier. They're not resolving the real problem. It's kind of like when we take pharmaceuticals or whatever for whatever, not to make people feel bad if they take those or they're prescribed them or something for their depression, but like when we don't get to the thing that's underneath it, right, we just end up on another pill and we just keep rotating off the next pill because we're kind of putting the Band-Aid over the thing that's going on. So like, I think with a lot of these people, like you said, there's a spiritual issue going on, or a whatever you want to say that word is. I'd call it spiritual, but maybe a psychological, and they're not dealing with it, and it's making them more upset and more unstable.
And this isn't just a Band-Aid. This is a chopping off the whole hand. This is like I mean, the antidepressants, which I'm also not in favor of, but it's like that's at least. If you stop taking them, you can go back to normal. This is, you're telling people to completely do irreversible damage to themselves. And it's like, that's definitely not good. All right. So what do you see happening? So here's the big question. We can spend the last 20 minutes on this. We're not rebels anymore, right? We won. This is I just published this piece in Frontier magazine, the most recent one, about going to AmFest. AmFest is Charlie Kirk's thing in Arizona, and Charlie Kirk's so great and really good on all these issues. But the interesting thing at AmFest was you could very much sense that this is the end of an era because we're not the rebels anymore. I mean, of course, we'll still always be the rebels. I did a whole thing on the meaning. Why is MAGA red? Right, the communists are red. Why is MAGA also red?
Oh, interesting.
And you actually see over time in America, Republicans or right wingers used to be blue, and they shifted to red over the years. And it was actually the less and less powerful they got, the more and more red they got. And it's because like blue is the color of authority. It's like banks are blue, pharma is blue, whereas red tends to be the color of like the dissent or of like the heckler, right?
Yeah.
So MAGA is red because we're like the FU, we're the FU party. But now that Trump has won and very distinctively won, and now that issues like what you're doing and what I'm doing are now like, we're starting to creep into the really actually genuinely being the authority. What happens now? I mean, is that a worry for you? Are you like, well, as soon as we don't have this political talking point anymore, can we still stay alive? Are you concerned about that? Or how do you see the movement that we're both part of evolving now that we've had some victories?
Yeah, I think you ask a good question, and there's thoughts. I guess I still feel that we're the rebels.
Oh, we are. No, we definitely are. And
I feel like the blue states are not going to comply with anything. So that's about half the country. And And I would argue that beyond America, there is nobody. Like, like all there is left in the world that fully embraces this sort of whatever you want to call this Americanism is red state America. And it temporarily has a hold on power right now in the federal government, right? But they don't have Hollywood. I wouldn't say they have the universities by any means at this point. They don't have most of corporate America. Corporate America might be rolling back their DEI programs and they're kind of happy to do it because it was costing them money and wasting their time. But I wouldn't call them right. I don't think anybody's going around and talking about how they voted for Trump at my ad agencies that I've been at. I'm highly doubt it.
No,
So I guess I
definitely
don't
not.
feel like we aren't the rebels still. I hear what you're saying. I do feel that cultural pendulum. You kind of called it a long time ago, like a year ago, you told me, or a year and a half ago, there was a vibe shift. And I think I was so in the black pill place that I couldn't believe it or see it. I don't think I could have ever believed Trump was going to win again at that time and felt like we were going off a cliff. So I'm really happy all this stuff is. So the pendulum, I see the pendulum moving back. That said, it feels fragile to me still. And for instance, Trump signs an EO that, men will be out of women's sports, and we have more boys in women's sports popping up in the news and showing up because blue states are just saying, we're not doing it. Maine just said today, we don't care if you defund us, if you take the federal funding. So then I guess I look and I just think we're in a war for the soul of the country. You can see behind me here, like I love this
Mm.
country, and I really do. I don't
What
know
is
where
that?
that comes from,
What
but
is
I
that
think it's a
country?
painting that's in the White House, the
That's cool.
artist, but it's a recreation. Um, but I just love the country. I love this country. I love our Constitution. I love the Bill of Rights. There's over here, if I can see there, if I'm not knocking something off my wall. There's
Oh, it's the Declaration of
Declaration.
Independence.
Next to
Nice.
this, the Ten Commandments are right there.
Ah,
So
nice.
the Judeo-Christian sort of founding of this country, which people are saying Judeo-Christian, I'm like, well, I do believe it's Judeo-Christian,
Mm.
and so I love this nation. I love what it stands for, and I still think we're in a battle for it, the soul of the country. Not to be like dramatic, and I feel like Trump winning is a huge first step, but we've got to keep going for like 8, 12 years. You know what I mean? I really do believe we've got to keep going. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of fixing to do. And um, I'm just excited that it seems like we got a chance to do that. And I just feel like there's a lot of work ahead of us. And the other side is just never going to relent. They just like, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I feel like we have a lot of work to do. I don't see it. And I feel like the rebels are still rebels for now. For now.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's nice that we've been, this is the part that you thank God for being given the chance to be part of this like movement. And yeah, no, they're not going away. I mean, they're going to figure out something to do. You can sense
Keys
that.
of Teslas.
Yeah, they're going to do something. They're going to do something bad. They're going to do something real
agree.
bad, and it's like they're working on what that really horrible thing is that they're going to do. But I think they got really badly destroyed by their own DEI in a way.
did.
I mean, I think that they got completely kind of crushed by. I think the Kamala campaign was sort of perfect because you could tell that they pushed the Kamala campaign like right to the to the edge, but the Kamala campaign was then supposed to take the ball and run with it, and they couldn't do it
Couldn't do
because
it.
they are so used to being diversity hires that they were just like, well, why do we have to do like
Anything.
why do we have to do anything? You're like,
Yeah.
what
Make
do
a
you mean
case
it's
for
our
ourselves.
job? Yeah, like right. And I remember there was this moment where Dana Bash kind of got on screen after one of Kamala's like horrible debate performances and was just like, "Hey, we told her you need an answer for why you're different from Biden," and she didn't have an answer. And and Dana Bash was almost like saying like they screwed this up, like they didn't do the work. And I think you see
they
that
didn't.
everywhere. Like in that ad, the commercial or the not the ad, but the woman starts singing at the DNC chair thing, and you're like, whoa, this is like they're really screwed. But after that, they're gonna figure once they realize they can't do that anymore, they're gonna do something bad. But I don't know like what it's.
I don't
gonna
know what
be,
it is
right?
either. I do
Yeah.
get what your core question, though. I get your point, which is we've been in this pugilistic stance like a rattlesnake in the corner for so long, being beat up, that it's almost like weird to have air cover
Yeah.
from Trump and the administration where they're saying the things we're saying. And we're like, whoa, like we were getting banned from social media if we said that just a year
Yeah.
ago, a year and a half ago. And now you can say it all. You can say, Tulsi Gabbard can say yesterday that the electronic machines have problems. You just get kicked off Instagram for that.
Yeah.
You can say that men that say they're women are not women.
Yeah.
You can say that now. You can say a lot of things now, and you can feel the freedom that like has come back to the dialogue. Joe Rogan can say a lot. You know, we can have a lot of conversations now. That's what I told somebody the other day. They asked me, "Where's the state of the battle?" And I said, "In our company." And I said, "Well, the biggest thing I noticed is that we haven't moved the two sides, but what has happened is our side has found its voice and is just as rooted and unafraid to say so. Not everybody, still a lot of people that are not. You know, more people need to speak." But you will not lose your job as fast as you would have like 2 years ago. Now we still don't have a WNBA player saying anything. We still don't have, so it's still a big social sort of fear to say some of these things. But that's my point: is that MAGA can say the things, and it's like you can say them now. Like maybe not at the ad agency, ad world that we came from, but you can say them online, you know, and stuff.
Wait, is WNBA? Is there going to be a guy who plays in WNBA? Is that
Oh,
already
was a funny
happening?
No, my point being that no
Wow.
famous celebrity female athlete has said that males and women's sports is wrong, which tells me
I
there's
see.
tremendous pressure on them at this moment still. But my point is, our side, I think people felt like they couldn't even say, nobody could say anything. It was like if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
said anything, you're going to lose your job, you're going to get kicked off ESPN, or whatever it is, you know. And I think it's a little less like that now, a little bit
I think,
less.
oh yeah, I think the doors have definitely opened. And I also think what the White House and what the Trump administration is doing is really,
Yeah.
they have figured out how to just be totally unapologetic. And that's really, really powerful. Like they don't care at all. You know, they're out there saying really radical, crazy stuff, and they're just like, who cares? They're going to hate us no matter what we say. So what does it matter if we don't just own our beliefs? And that's really new for the right. You know,
It
I
is
think
new.
the right has never in America figured out how to do
Well,
that. And yeah,
yeah, you just tapped into something really smart. I think, like you're right. The left is unapologetic. Defund the police. They're unapologetic. That's a crazy idea, but they just say it. And the right, what we would do is work within the frame they created, right? Which is empathy and like loving people, and we would try to couch what we believe in their language. And what like you just said, that's a really good point you're making, which is that Trump has said, I don't care about that. I don't need to frame it like you frame it. I'm just going to say we're going to close the border.
yeah,
I'm not going to
yeah,
talk about empathy or anything else.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
great. It is.
yeah,
It's liberating. It's sort of like it reestablishes room to talk honestly, because we can't, when we try to play in their language, if it's just always about empathy, well, you know, you guys, that's your framing on the world. Our framing is on wrong or right, fair or unfair, just
yeah,
or unjust. That's not your framing. Your framing is inclusive.
yeah.
You know what I mean? We can't come in your door because your door only, it puts inclusivity and empathy higher than justice or fairness. And people, conservatives, libertarians, old school liberals are not going to agree to that.
Yeah, it's
You know?
about treating these things as self-evident. It's like not you don't need to explain to people why you need to deport a fentanyl dealer. Like you don't that's not like you shouldn't it's not like you need to be like, "Oh, well, we've balanced empathy against the damage to." They're just like, "No. Screw this person and let's make fun of them because obviously, why wouldn't you?" And that's I think the big lesson of the last Trump and this Trump. The last Trump was still
Mhm.
going in the old way, which was to like, you know, try and accept the left's frame. Whereas this time it's been like, no, we're not
We don't
accepting your
care.
frame at all.
We
We
don't
don't
care
care.
what you say as
Yeah,
reporters. In
yeah,
fact, we're going to boot you out of the media room. We don't even need you
right.
in here. And if you got
Yeah,
pronouns on your name and that means you're ideological, you're not even invited. And it's
right.
like, I don't know. I kind of appreciate that because that's how they are.
Yeah,
And I don't mean to be like, if they weren't completely just so cancerous for the country, like when I was growing up, they weren't. The Democratic Party was liberal. Yeah, there's some policies I don't agree with, you know, some big ones even. But you could have a dialogue, you know. But if you're just going to call me a Nazi and a fascist for my legitimately reasonable beliefs, then you just leave. I don't need to play this game anymore. You know what I mean? Like, do you feel like it? I mean,
Yeah,
if you're
no.
going to call me a fascist or a Nazi, then there's no conversation. It's like, and I'm not mad about it. I just don't. There's nothing to talk about
Yeah,
because you
no,
don't
I
insult
totally
somebody
agree.
you're trying to have a conversation with.
We're right, and yeah, they just got way too. They just got way too emboldened. They just got way too powerful. I mean,
Yes,
I think really
too
that's what it
powerful.
was, and in that power, they just kept trying to see how far they could go, and at a certain point, it was just too much. So
I agree.
we talked about stories though. What do you think our story will be? Like their story was so compelling because they were constantly talking about freedom, right? It's like oh, it's not bothering you. This isn't bothering you. You don't want this person to be free. This is America. Everybody should be free. And that was very, very compelling, right? They worked.
Yeah.
It worked really well. And that's why they got so much power because they were able to just hit this freedom story so many times. So what do you think our story will be going forward? Like what are the things we do stand for? I mean, I liked what you said earlier about justice, right and wrong. But yeah, like what do you think? I mean, you're the creative director of America. What's the next 100 years? What's our story about?
Well, I guess I don't know if I have a new one. I think the brief, let's call it the brief, which the founders had, which is this
Yeah.
thing on my wall,
All right.
or the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. These bottom Christians, many of them deists, like Abraham, Franklin, and they devised the greatest brief for a government that has ever been created, and it's been the envy of the world and the oldest constitution in the world. And to me, I just think that it's Joe Rogan's talked about this. A lot of people have talked about it, the explosion of creativity, of creation. To me, there's something in this model that is just magic. It is lightning in a bottle. It is not perfect, but it is the best system by far. So to me, the story is I guess it's Trump's story is returning to some of those principles, returning to them all, because they're amazing principles and they make it possible for us to have an incredibly creative, prolific country in which people can be very different and have very different beliefs, worship differently, and still call each other a neighbor. If we'll abide by the law, live and let live, because that's all the right's asking for. We're not asking you to live like I tell you. I mean, even as a Christian, that's one of the things about Christianity. You persuade, you don't pull out the sword. It's not jihad. It's not convert by the sword. It's convert a heart. If you don't want what I'm selling, that's okay. I want you to want what I'm selling, but you're my neighbor and I love you anyway. That premise that's underneath America of live and let live, um, and the ideas that are built into the founders, let's call it the brief again. To me, that's what we've got to get back to. It had led. I mean, there's just no doubt that America's it was explosively creative and a refuge to all kinds of people from with different stories from around the world. And that combination of smashing up of cultures in New York, and I don't know, I just think it's amazing. I just want to get back to it. I don't want to stop playing this game where like, what color are you? And you know, what list of grievances can you tell me about? Yes, I know your life was unfair. My life was unfair too. I can tell you some things that happened to me. Yes, I know things had been done to you as a child that were probably terrible. Whatever. I know your story is different from mine as a Black American, let's say. But let's get back to merit, fairness, equal opportunity, even though we don't do it perfectly. Let's try to do that as best we can. But let's
Yeah.
not play this game of this guy gets a job because he has this certain melanin color, or whatever level of
Right.
melanin. And so if we do that, I just feel like that's why I don't want to give some new set of things. I
Yeah.
think the thing that they came up with is brilliant, and all we did is lost our way and stopped adhering to it.
Totally. It's time to restate the beliefs of America. Okay, dude, thank you so much. That was really great. I loved hearing your stories, particularly about, I could just listen to you talk about making Super Bowl commercials all day. Yeah, thank you so much, man. What's up next with XXXY? Where can people find it? What's happening? Is there any new releases coming out or anything?
Yeah, we're always coming out with new stuff and constantly growing. I think the line Jen said will be like 3 times as big next year. It's getting
Oh,
much
wow.
bigger. If you go to the website, it's thetruthfits.com. is the URL, and if you go there, it's got a lot already. But yeah, just tons of clothes coming online, and then just for me creatively, just always trying to figure out where the tension points in the culture are. Like you saw today, we did a thing about sort of a thing saying to men that you're not toxic. That was something that I love doing, even though the Gillette ad is kind of in the rear view mirror. I still think the culture talks to men like they're a malignancy of some kind just for being men. And so wanted to say something to them about like, we think you're great the way that manliness and masculinity is great. So those are the kinds of things we're going to keep doing from a marketing standpoint. I'm excited about. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. And I'm thankful for the work. It's a different world that you and I are in now. It moves quicker, but in some ways as a creator, it's kind of fun because it's just, and maybe you're not going to Prague to shoot with, famous NBA player, but you're making a ton of stuff and you're moving quickly and you're getting your work out there. And that's a lot of fun. So.
Absolutely. And I think, honestly, the whole marketing world is going to get doged very harshly. And so I think
we bailed out in time.
We bailed out. We're going to be in good shape because they're going to realize, wait a second, why are we paying these budgets again? Like, we don't need to pay these budgets at all. So hopefully, everybody needs to come hire us to do their stuff. So, okay.
I agree with you.
All right. Thank you so much, Brett. Great to see you. I'll talk to you soon.
Isaac, great seeing you, man. All right, buddy.
Peace.
See ya.
Yeah.